Bless up, bless up, bless up. Oh, my light is a little dark. My light is a little dark tonight. I'm gonna have to adjust it. How are you guys? How's everybody? I gotta start the music. I gotta start the music. A little late tonight. So having some technical difficulties. As you can see, you see what happened in that frame. That was so weird. Like you literally saw the last time that I went live pop up right in the middle of the screen. That was not supposed to happen. No way, no how. But I'm here for it. We here for it. We here on a late night rendezvous. Um, we gonna go a little deep tonight, like we always do. We gonna go a little deep. What we're gonna be talking about today is continuation of the topics that we talk about all the time on Secure Your Energy. Tonight we're gonna be talking about actually going into detail a little bit about the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, as well as the BSI, and try to connect the two concepts together so you can understand what actually controls our economy. Then we're going to dip into how China's situation actually affects us, because you remember we mentioned that in 2018 they kind of helped with the bailout. The bailout, they did that via the way of buying bonds, and we talked about bonds and the importance of what bonds play in our market, and we're gonna talk about that next week. Go back into bonds, but this week we're gonna talk about China's kind of situation and how it may affect the global economy. And then we're going to also go on to, just highlight some important concepts of how to protect yourself or possibly get prepared for a recession, or what they're going to say, or a currency change, or actual, financial collapse. You never know. So you just got to be prepared, keep your eyes open, pay attention to the situation around you, and be prepared. So thank you guys for being with me tonight. If you don't catch me tonight, you're going to be catching it tomorrow on Secure Your Energy Group, Secure Team Group on Facebook. We'll look at that a little bit later. Thank you to all the group members there. I know you're paying attention. I know you're getting a little bit of that gold on the side just in case. You may wake up, don't have none in your bank account because that bank done collapsed. You never know. You never know. I mean, it can happen. It has happened. I showed you plenty of examples. But let's get into today's videos. I always got some videos for you. I'm grateful that it's working because we was having some technical difficulties.
What is the credit crisis? It's a worldwide financial fiasco involving terms you've probably heard, like subprime mortgages, collateralized debt obligations, frozen credit markets, and credit default swaps. Who's affected? Everyone. How did it happen? Here's how. The credit
I'm sorry, guys. I didn't introduce this video. This video is basically the cause and effect of the financial crisis in 2008. So I just want us to take a look at that, so we can remember and maybe get a little deja vu. Just pay attention. Pay attention to the details, people.
crisis brings two groups of people together, homeowners and investors. Homeowners represent their mortgages, and investors represent their money. These mortgages represent houses, and this money represents large institutions like pension funds, insurance companies, sovereign funds, mutual funds, etc. These groups are brought together through the financial system, a bunch of banks and brokers commonly known as Wall Street. While it may not seem like it, these banks on Wall Street are closely connected to these houses on Main Street. To understand how, let's start at the beginning. Years ago, the investors are sitting on their pile of money, looking for a good investment to turn into more money. Traditionally, they go to the U.S. Federal Reserve, where they buy Treasury bills, believed to be the safest investment. But in the wake of the dot-com bust in September 11th, Federal Reserve Chairman Alan Greenspan lowers interest rates to only 1% to keep the economy strong. 1% is a very low return on investment, so the investors...
So just remember, listen to what they say. Pay attention to details. Remember, as we went over like a few weeks ago, how last week I think the Federal Reserve is lowering interest rates again. Okay, so deja vu, deja vu.
Say no thanks. On the flip side, this means banks on Wall Street can borrow from the Fed for only 1%. Add to that general surpluses from Japan, China, and the Middle East, and there's an abundance of cheap credit. This makes borrowing money easy for banks and causes them to go crazy with leverage. Leverage is borrowing money to amplify the outcome of a deal. Here's how it works. In a normal deal, someone with $10,000 buys a box for $10,000. He then sells it to someone else for $11,000. For a $1,000 profit, a good deal. But using leverage, someone with $10,000 would go borrow $990,000 more dollars, giving him $1 million in hand. Then he goes and buys 100 boxes with his $1 million and sells them to someone else for $1,100,000. Then he pays back his $990,000 plus $10,000 in interest. And after his initial $10,000, he's left with a $90,000 profit versus the other guy's $1,000. Leverage turns good deals into great deals. This is a major way banks make their money. So Wall Street takes out a ton of credit, makes great deals, and grows tremendously rich, and then pays it back. The investors see this and want a piece of the action, and this gives Wall Street an idea. They can connect the investors to the homeowners through mortgages. Here's how it works. A family wants a house, so they save for a down payment and contact a mortgage broker. The mortgage broker connects the family to a lender who gives them a mortgage. The broker makes a nice commission. The family buys a house and becomes homeowners. This is great for them because housing prices have been rising practically forever. Everything works out nicely. One day, the lender gets a call from an investment banker who wants to buy the mortgage. The lender sells it to him for a very nice fee. The investment banker then borrows millions of dollars and buys thousands more mortgages and puts them into a nice little box. This means that every month he gets the payments from the homeowners of all the mortgages in the box. Then he sicks his banker wizards on it to work their financial magic, which is basically cutting it into 3 slices: safe, okay, and risky. They pack the slices back up in the box and call it a collateralized debt obligation, or CDO. A CDO works like 3 cascading trays. As money comes in, the top tray fills first, then spills over into the middle, and whatever is left into the bottom. The money comes from homeowners paying off their mortgages. If some owners don't pay and default on their mortgage, less money comes in and the bottom tray may not get filled. This makes the bottom tray riskier and the top tray safer. To compensate for the higher risk, the bottom tray receives a higher rate of return, while the top receives a lower, but still nice return. To make the top even safer, banks will insure it for a small fee called a credit default swap. The banks do all of this work so that credit rating agencies will stamp the top slice as a safe AAA rated investment, the highest, safest rating there is. The OK slice is BBB, still pretty good, and they don't bother to rate the risky slice. Because of the AAA rating, the investment banker can sell the safe slice to the investors who only want safe investments. He sells the OK slice to other bankers, and the risky slices to hedge funds and other risk takers. The investment banker makes millions. He then repays his loans. Finally, the investors have found a good investment for their money, much better than the 1% Treasury bills. They're so pleased they want more CDO slices. So the investment banker calls up the lender, wanting more mortgages. The lender calls up the broker for more homeowners, but the broker can't find anyone. Everyone that qualifies for a mortgage already has one, but they have an idea. When homeowners default on their mortgage, the lender gets the house, and houses are always increasing in value. Since they're covered if the homeowners default, lenders can start adding risk to new mortgages, not requiring down payments, no proof of income, no documents at all. And that's exactly what they did. So instead of lending to responsible homeowners, called prime mortgages, they started to get some that were, well, less responsible. These are subprime mortgages. This is the turning point. So, just like always, the mortgage broker connects the family with a lender and a mortgage, making his commission. The family buys a big house. The lender sells the mortgage to the investment banker, who turns it into a CDO and sells slices to the investors and others. This actually works out nicely for everyone and makes them all rich. No one was worried because as soon as they sold the mortgage to the next guy, it was his problem. If the homeowners were to default, they didn't care. They were selling off their risk to the next guy and making millions, like playing hot potato with a time bomb. Not surprisingly, the homeowners default on their mortgage, which at this moment is owned by the banker. This means he forecloses and one of his monthly payments turns into a house. No big deal. He puts it up for sale. But more and more of his monthly payments turn into houses. Now there are so many houses for sale on the market, creating more supply than there is demand, and housing prices aren't rising anymore. In fact, they plummet. This creates an interesting problem for homeowners still paying their mortgages. As all the houses in their neighborhood go up for sale, the value of their house goes down, and they start to wonder why they're paying back their $300,000 mortgage when the house is now worth only $90,000. They decide that it doesn't make sense to continue paying, even though they can afford to, and they
This is the aha moment where y'all supposed to say, oh, see, this is how it can affect us as well, the housing market, and also the deregulation that has occurred under this administration, because the Dodd-Frank Act that we talked about actually regulated contracts and banking loaning contracts amongst us as investors or people who are buying home versus the banks. And guess what happened when someone got into office? So just FYI, pay attention to the trends, pay attention to the similarities. I'm playing this video so you just kind of can see like, hey, this sounds familiar.
walk away from their house. Default rates sweep the country and prices plummet. Now the investment banker is basically holding a box full of worthless houses. He calls up his buddy, the investor, to sell his CDO, but the investor isn't stupid and says, no thanks. He knows that the stream of money isn't even a dribble anymore. The banker tries to sell to everyone, but nobody wants to buy his bomb. He's freaking out because he borrowed millions, sometimes billions of dollars to buy this bomb, and he can't pay it back. Whatever he tries, he can't get rid of it. But he's not the only one. The investors have already bought thousands of these bombs. The lender calls up trying to sell his mortgage, but the banker won't buy it, and the broker is out of work. The whole financial system is frozen, and things get dark. Everybody starts going bankrupt. But that's not all. The investor calls up the homeowner and tells him that his investments are worthless. And you can begin to see how the crisis flows in a cycle. Welcome to the crisis of credit.
Alright, so I just wanted to start with reviewing that video because we get a foundational information of basically what happened in 2018 too, in one of the sections of commerce that caused a big issue just for the general public and how it actually trickled down to us. So that was a great breakdown. That great breakdown was done on the channel Vivian Yalo. So you can like and subscribe. I think she may have got it from another vendor. So check it out. Check it out. We're going to move on now. We're going to move on to our next video.
We see every day how events...
The next video we're going to talk about, we're going to go into is how the IMF monitors the global economy. And we can actually, let me see, because this is a video.
If you're confused by the difference...
So let's talk about, before we do that, excuse me, we're going to go into what's the difference between the IMF and the World Bank, the Bank of International Settlements, another name as well. Okay, so let's look at that video first. It's a short 4-minute video so we can get a good distinction of the two entities. All right, but I do want to let you know next week we're going to go over CDOs, okay? We're going to talk about collateralization of debt obligations and how they're still doing that right now, where they get the mortgages from you and they actually sell that to another investor, you know. So it was really broken down in that last video. On Monday, I'm going to be going live talking about primetime home buyers, just giving some more information. We're going to start sessions like this so you can understand the mortgage market as well as the process of buying tax liens. That's the sister program to Secure Your Energy, because we need more than one way to secure your energy. We need assets, and we also need another form of currency to just be ready. Something that's real, something that's just, you know, you can literally hold, something that has to stand the test of time, and definitely, you know, that is gold. So let's go on to the next video. Our next video is what's the difference between the IMF and the World Bank. CNBC explains, okay? This is CNBC International YouTube page. You can like and subscribe and check it out yourself.
Between the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, and the World Bank, well, you're not the only one. Famed economist John Maynard Keynes, who was a founding father of both institutions, said that he was confused just by their names. The IMF and the World Bank are closely linked. So close that their headquarters are across the street from each other here in Washington. So what's the difference between them? It all started at this hotel in New Hampshire in July 1944, where 44 countries gathered for the Bretton Woods Conference. The goal of the conference was to agree on a new framework for the international monetary system, which is the rules and institutions that keep the global economy running smoothly. After World War II, most people agreed that the old system had failed. It had seen the Great Depression, unfair trade policies, and unstable currencies. After 3 weeks of heated negotiations at Bretton Woods, especially between Keynes, who was representing the United Kingdom, and Harry Dexter White, the U.S. Treasury representative, a deal was reached. The agreement created the IMF and the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, soon to be known as the World Bank. Each institution was given a distinct role. The IMF's job was to oversee a system of fixed exchange rates, which tied the value of a country's currency to the US dollar, which was pegged to gold. The main purpose of this was to make sure exchange rates stayed stable to encourage global trade. The IMF was also tasked with providing short-term loans to countries struggling to pay their debts. Meanwhile, the main goal of the World Bank was to give financial assistance to countries, mainly in Europe, that needed to rebuild after the war. The roles of both the IMF and the World Bank have changed a lot since the days of Bretton Woods. President Nixon unpegged the US dollar from gold in 1971, essentially dissolving the fixed exchange rate system that the IMF oversaw. Since then, the IMF has taken on a bigger role fighting financial crises around the world. It keeps tabs on the global economy and puts economic policies in place in member countries. The World Bank focuses its efforts on development and reducing poverty. It provides funding and resources in projects in some of the poorest countries in the world. Both institutions include 189 member countries, but the IMF has around 2,700 employees, compared to the World Bank staff of 10,000. The IMF is funded mainly by quotas, basically subscription fees from member countries. It receives around $675 billion in quotas, with the US, Japan, China, and Germany contributing the most. The World Bank is financed mostly by issuing bonds to global investors. The group's lending commitments reached nearly $59 billion in fiscal year 2017. The IMF has committed $160 billion under its current lending arrangements. Today, the IMF's biggest borrowers include Greece, Ukraine, Portugal, and Pakistan. The places where the World Bank is running the most projects are in Africa and East Asia. One thing the IMF and the World Bank have in common is that they both have some opponents. Critics point to the conditions attached to their loans, saying they don't always address the specific economic issues within a country. The IMF has come under fire for continuing to bail out Greece, even as the country has failed to clean up its finances. Human rights groups have criticized the World Bank for ignoring the environmental and social impacts of some of its projects in countries like Ethiopia or Myanmar. But the IMF and the World Bank say they promote global economic stability. They make countries less vulnerable to crises, promote higher living standards, and provide vital help to countries that need it. Hey guys, it's Elizabeth. Thanks so much for watching.
With that goes to say, it seems like somebody's not doing their jobs. I'm just going to be honest, because if this entity has been set forth to not only control the interest rates, or it was supposed to control the global interest rates pertaining to gold and money, since that was taken out, they need to come up with a new agenda, and that was to supposedly combat poverty in ways of lending loans and also selling bonds. So the IMF is kind of seem like they're working in the same capacity as the World Bank to a certain extent, but they're not meeting the standards of their mission statement. To what I understand, learning a little bit more about the IMF. So I want to show you something. Not only do the Bank of International Settlements have their own YouTube page that people are not paying attention to, but it's cool because they will start to. They got like 400 views. They got more views than my videos, but it's okay because people are waking up and they're getting tired of just listening to just nonsense, propaganda. They're really paying attention to the details. So when the people ready to pay attention to the details, we already got it uploaded. But the Bank of International Settlements, I think something has changed to make these people have to be transparent. So I happened to find today the IMF has their own YouTube page. Everybody got a YouTube page. Everybody got a YouTube page. And one of the things I think that's being set up is because there's a lot of commentary about different individuals, different entities. And YouTube most recently changed their policies and standards in regards to commentary. So if you happen to talk about another artist or commentary that is connected to YouTube, it will be possibly banned, demonetized, or not shown. So this is why so many stars and also entities are starting to create YouTube page to control the narrative. So I'm just throwing that out there. So if y'all gonna pay attention to the things. But with this, what we do in Secure Your Energy, we pay attention to the two-sided talk. We definitely pay attention to the two-sided talk, talking one way and talking right out the side of your mouth. We don't deal with that type of stuff. And we also pay attention to details. So I wanted to introduce you guys to the IMF. They got 72.5 thousand subscribers. This is their page, and this is how the IMF monitors the global fund. It's about a 1 minute, 1.5 minute video. I just wanted y'all to actually just hone on to it. I didn't subscribe under Secure Your Energy, but I'm subscribed to this page because I'm here for it. I want to hear the nonsense. You got to pay attention. This the big boys. This the big boys that people haven't been paying attention to. So welcome to the IMF. Okay? So let's watch this video.
We see every day how events in one country can spill over to neighbors, across continents, to the whole world. A trade disruption can raise the cost of food in a neighboring country or affect supplies on a distant continent. When one country raises interest rates, the cost of borrowing to buy a car or a washing machine could go up somewhere else. Our job at the IMF is to spot such risks and help address them. How? Every year, a team from the IMF visits just about every one of its 189 member countries. The team talks to the government, central bankers, and important actors in the local economy, such as labor and business leaders, academics, activists, and students. It looks at how the country can promote growth and stability, prevent financial crises, and ultimately improve people's lives. That information goes into a report, a kind of economic health check. These reports are like puzzle pieces that the IMF fits together to form a picture of our global economy. The global picture allows a country to share its experience while also benefiting from the knowledge of other members. It also allows the IMF to identify risk and warn governments to take action. And with this information, we can make recommendations that will benefit the individual country, the region, and the world.
Okay. All right. So you see they got a big part in, actually helping to regulate, it sounds like, the economy in different countries. So with their actual when reporting, it seems like it's important to actually report and have a connection with the IMF, or be able, if they take complaints. I'm just saying because I ain't playing right now. When you go to the go and make a complaint with the Better Business Bureau, or you take it to the I can't even get it off the tip of my tongue. It is, I'm seeing it right at the end of my tongue. I'm gonna hold that thought. But what I'm saying is right now, because of the deregulation, the entities that's set in place to actually help us as individuals that's participating in commerce that may have issues with business, they don't have the capacity or the funding anymore. If you pay attention to what this administration have done, and other administrations as well. But when, I'm not a big Obama fan, but I will be truthful to the things that people do. He did set a strong regularization over these entities. As I said, be it or die frank. Right now, that has been dismantled. Money has been taken away from regularization boards. Consumers affairs. That's what I was trying to say. Consumers affairs. You can't even report to consumers affairs and they do something. They don't. They just taking reports. You see what I'm saying? But with us as individuals, when we have issues with certain entities, we need to know who to report to. So it seems like we're going to do a little bit more research into how the IMF actually works and the actual service that they provide for people, so we can start to put things on a global level and start to expose stuff. Because at the end of the day, we're kind of stuck in a box when we have these big business people that are making these decisions specifically for their interests. At the end of the day, it affects us. It affects our money that we bring into our house when they make these corporate decisions to decide to possibly hire at a lower rate, or take their business and outsource it. These type of things. So we need to be able to report the type of effects that we have as well on a global level, so we can put it on a world market. But that goes along with the concept of nationality when it comes to brown melanated people, when you want to stand on an international level. But, we won't talk about that on this forum. But the people who understand what I'm saying, you understand what I'm saying. When you want to take it that way, you have to have a stance. You have to have a state. You have to have a nationality. But we're going to move on. We're going to stay focused. Shout out to the people who caught what I was just talking about.
And
You
Krieger
already
is the
understand
senior research
there's more
professor.
levels to this. All right, so the evolving role of the IMF in the global economy. So you already see what their role is, what they just mentioned. They go and they talk to people, different colleges, entities, giving education, getting statistics to find out what's going on in different global economies. But this video is 2014 video that only have 723 views. I'm so grateful that God gives me this information so I can share with you guys. I know it's be like 2 years advance, but by the time y'all ready to this stuff start to be really talked about, y'all already know about it. It happens all the time. This is something, so people who pay attention to me, I'm gonna let you know that the stuff I usually put out will happen a year or so ahead, but it will happen. So just be prepared. That's the type of vibration that I have around me, that I get things like a year early, and then, you know, I kind of put it out to people don't pay attention, and then a year later, it's everybody talking about it. So I'm going to pray that before that time that we go viral as the people that are within our group that knows that this information is very important, that it has to go out, that people have to pay attention to this and not be distracted by the gossip about the stars or what the hell they doing. No disrespect, because I watch it, but I know where it has to be a balance. You have to focus in on what's important. That's family right now, the economy, as well as making yourself stable and understanding what's going on around us, because there's a lot that's changing. You know, behaviors are changing, policies are changing, borders are changing, not only in the United States but other countries. They're opening their borders, they're closing their borders, so we need to pay attention to that stuff globally, as well as 2020. You got to remember, and I'm throwing these important concepts out to you guys because I don't get to talk to y'all a lot, but they're going to have that when you have to travel, you have to have your passport. So why is that? These are things that we need to pay attention to. So I know this is not the forum for it, but if you pay attention to the Black Discovery Channel, I'm constantly every weekend putting little concepts out for people, and it's just basically watching the world through the Black Discovery Channel eyes. We're able to put a whole concept together for you can get a good look of the topic. For say 2 weeks ago on the Black Discovery Channel, we had a video that focused on the mentality of sex traffickers, you know, of minds of people who have been abused. So with the videos that we were able to put together, you were able to just basically watch in the perspective of the Black Discovery Channel producer, the way that it is a effect on the human mind that actually begets this behavior. So those type of topics goes down on the Black Discovery Channel. So check it out. I know I got off topic, but let's wind this back. It was like 723 people who watched this. Okay, so y'all need to wake up. Okay, and they got a lot of subscribers. So the evolving role of the IMF in the global economy. People were like, what the hell IMF? We're not even paying attention to it. But we are. But me and you are. You know we here for it. We be a little advanced over here. We gonna just pay attention to the stuff they don't know about.
International economics at Johns Hopkins University. She's also a professor at Stanford as well. And from 2001 to 2006, she was the first deputy managing director of the IMF. And I asked her, and she told me that the role of the IMF has evolved over time.
And the IMF was always intended as sort of the international monetary, as it says, system, and as such was not really geared toward developing countries. It was much more geared toward maintenance of the international monetary system. And some of the fund's first big efforts were in the industrial countries not developing. What's happened is that given that the fund is working toward keeping the international monetary system as afloat as it can and so on, the fund has adapted as the international monetary system has grown and changed, including, of course, the increased importance of the emerging markets in developing countries.
Do you think they're successful in pushing that mandate?
Well, let me put it this way. I think it's done a lot. I think it's remarkable. It's certainly done more than any other international organization I know of in achieving, except the very specialized ones, in achieving that. But that said, the fund is really the creature of its members. Its members are the countries of the world. And when the countries of the world don't let it or don't want it or don't support it in some of its pushes, it doesn't happen.
Explain to our international audience, they may not know perhaps the particulars of the difference between the World Bank and the IMF and the different functions, but in most simplistic terms possible, how would you explain to somebody the two roles they have and how do they actually work together?
Well, the fund is really a short term in immediate focus in that is international monetary system. And when countries run into major financial difficulties, the fund can be there to support them. It is not in the development business. It's not long term. Now, things that you do in the short term can be very important for long-term growth. So the fund does look at that, but that's a different issue. The World Bank is in the development business and really very much less concerned with the short-term international macroeconomic financial stability.
You know, you have a lot of experience, and I want to ask you something that's come up in the last couple of years. The agencies, both the IMF and the World Bank, has raised a bit of a yellow flag, if you will, regarding the raising of short-term interest rates in the United States. They've gone on record to say, the IMF or the World Bank like that. Do you think their roles shift to much more policy-driven, or they're trying to influence, perhaps, policies of countries, in this case, the United States, the U.S. Fed?
Well, they are both policy driven. I mean, the World Bank can't be concerned with long run growth without being concerned with the policies that lead toward it. And the fund, certainly when a country is in short term, there's almost always, if not always, some kind of policy incoherence or something behind it. So in that sense, I think they have every reason to be concerned with anything on the international scene that they perceive as something that has spillover effects among countries and that has effects in terms of their growth prospects or their prospects for macroeconomic and financial concerns.
Another big topic has been the growth of China. Certainly the time that you were there to where we are today, a lot has changed. And I mean, even at the IMF meetings last year, I mean, that was a huge topic of discussion. What will China's growth be? Where are they with, domestic consumption? I mean, there's so many different topics. What is or what should be the IMF and World Bank's role should be when it comes to dealing with a country that's emerging like China?
Well, it has been and will continue, I think, to be supportive and helping to foster growth, which does not necessarily mean always agreeing with everything the Chinese authorities do, but it does mean being supportive of their growth initiative. Certainly the IMF and the World Bank management and staff have pushed for greater say in a formal sense. It already has it informally, of China and other emerging markets in the institutions, and that's good. China has, of course, become big enough in the past 10, 12, 14 years so that China's large current account surpluses had macroeconomic implications beyond its borders. And that's still, I think, an issue of some concern going forward as to how Chinese low consumption, high savings and investment relates to the rest of the world in terms of what that does to international macroeconomic stability and finance.
China is a very unique country in the sense that they obviously have their internal political reasons for doing things, and they sometimes listen to the international community as well, and I guess the IMF is a part of that. How much do they listen to the guidance or advice when it comes to reforms financially? When you think about the IMF and World Bank, how big are those words when they come out and speak about China's reforms? Well,
first you said China's unusual in that they pay attention to their domestic needs. Everybody pays attention to their domestic needs. It's not unique to China. It's always hard to say for any country after some reforms are undertaken how much influence anything, not just international, but what the newspapers did, what the journalists did, what the TV columns did. It's very hard to say what influence there is. I think the Chinese have been very open in listening to what others have to say and to accepting their viewpoints, and quite self-confident that they can decide what they think is best for them.
Thank you, Ann Krieger, Senior Research Professor at Johns Hopkins University and former Deputy Managing Director at the IMF.
All right, guys. So that video, you see how they went into China all of a sudden. We wasn't even supposed to be talking about China, but somehow it went right into China. And China is a heavy hitter. China is a really heavy hitter in our economy and what's going on globally. And if they're unstable, it seems like a lot of other countries are unstable, as well as you see.
Ann Krieger is the Senior Research Professor.
They highlighted the actual role of the IMF, which is not only to, support countries, see what's going on, do an audit. Their goal is to support and make sure and reassure the international monetary system is actually correct. So this is a platform where all the countries meet together and they be talking and be like, hey, you doing something that's going to affect my economy. This is where they start beefing or getting together at the end of the day. So this is a very important entity that we need to know on an individual level of who's making decisions about us. All right, so this is the IMF. They have their own actually page as well. So we talked about, I played that video already, but this is their page. It's amazing. It's amazing, but they got 72.5 thousand subscribers, so somebody's paying attention. I don't know if they watching their videos, but I know they're paying attention. So let's subscribe, because that's, you know, I didn't subscribe on Secure Your Energy page, and we're gonna move on. And I hope that you're subscribing to these pages. I mean, so you can get an in-depth look of what's what their perspective is, what's going on with their entity. This is what is the role of the IMF play in the mitigating climate change. This was 2 days ago. So this is something that y'all can watch, but we're not going to watch it tonight. We're going to go more into the IMF possibly next week, so we could go into details. Let's move on to the Bank of International Settlements. Get to know them. Hey, there go their page. I hope y'all subscribe. 3.96 thousand subscribers, which is great. People are waking up. Okay, so annual economic report highlights. This was 5 months ago. The video that we're going to watch, let's X out of here. This is the annual economic report highlights from 5 months ago. And we're going to watch this a 3-minute video. And if you ain't watch it because you ain't subscribed, we're going to watch it together. This is the entities that we need to know. We need to know what the hell's going on with them. Excuse my language. These are the big boys. These are the heavy hitters that I be talking about. Okay? Wake up.
So far, this situation continues. There is not very clear signals if the soft patch will continue into the second half of the year, even though there are incipient positive news in some latitudes. The main reason has been related to the trade disputes and with the impact it has had on expectations, which has affected investment. Many banks have not yet managed to fully repair their balance sheets and adjust their business models. The emergence of big tech as a competitor, analyzed in Chapter 3 of the report, further adds to banks' challenges.
Public policy towards big techs in finance needs to build on a more comprehensive approach that draws on financial regulation, competition policy, and data privacy regulation.
In particular, Southeastern Asia and in the US. Corporates have been issuing a lot of debt in the capital markets, and it has not only been the better rated companies that have been issuing, but also a high risk or high yield type of debt has been issued. High levels of debt also point to vulnerabilities in a number of emerging market economies. The current vulnerabilities reflect in part spillovers from prolonged accommodative monetary policies and advanced economies, as emerging market economies are especially vulnerable to capital flow reversals and exchange rate fluctuations.
After the financial crisis of the 1990s, they adopted inflation targeting with more flexible exchange rate regimes, but they haven't moved all the way to freely floating exchange regimes, which is what the standard book would say. Moreover, they have complemented this with macroprudential measures.
Monetary policy cannot be the engine of higher sustainable capital growth. To see past the clouds to blue sky, a more balanced policy mix is badly needed. A sustainable flight path requires the long overdue full engagement of all four policy engines, rather than short-term turbocharges. by taking a longer view, one can better balance the need of today with the needs of tomorrow.
All right. So we got to know them a little bit more, the BSI, and I want to just highlight a few important things that they were saying in the video. Okay. So one of the things that I highlighted is the trade dispute, as he
Can better balance
the trade dispute is one of the issues of what's going on that's causing an issue in the economy. You know, as he said it, you know, subtly in his ways, you know, and that's a big problem. Banks have not recovered completely, even from 1990, the issue they had there. But we talking about 2008. They haven't recovered completely. And you remember a few weeks ago, I think about 2 weeks ago, we talked about how the banks actually balance their books at night. So if they actually don't have enough money in their ledger, they will make a loan from their fellow bank. And if they have to literally go up to the big boys, which is the Federal Reserve, that's when all their fellow banks like, oh shit, you in trouble. Y'all remember that? Y'all remember that? So they said that these banks have not even recovered. So they have made, this is another big entity that is supporting what we have been going over. It's not a joke. So really pay attention. So I'm introducing these entities to you. Read the full report, 2019 annual economic report. Here, go to the website, www.bis.org, annual economic reports. Okay, so I'm going to download it and I'm going to look at it, and I'm going to, you know, later on in the weeks we're going to kind of like just highlight a few things. So if you get a chance to download it, you'll have some key things that maybe you'll want to just talk about, or just, you know, just learn about, because you need to know this. Stop being distracted, people. I don't care. It's going to be sometimes y'all just going to have to be focused. You're going to just have to
economic indicators.
And you're just going to have to just be like, oh shit. Because if you ever come to a time where you don't have any actual money in the bank, things come to a stop. The gas comes. Now, y'all know when we have these like weather issues and where we run out of gas and things like that. So imagine if we are not able to actually make the exchange to have these gas and other things that we need transported into the country properly because of economic issues. This is the things we need to pay attention to. And this is why we here, and this is why I have these sessions with you guys. And I'm grateful that y'all part of this family, because it's real. It's real. Okay? So economic indicators and their impact on currency. So you know we talk about currency, and I talk about the importance of gold. Before we talk about the importance of gold, we're going to talk about economic indicators and their impact on currency. So these are things you need to pay attention to. It happened in 2008, and this video is in 2013. So it's mostly going back to what happened in 2008, just in case we get a little deja vu. Okay, that I want people to be aware, because people try not to pay attention to the past. They try to manipulate what happened in the past, put it in their own little concept. But we got to pay attention to the hardcore facts, so we won't repeat history, or if history is about to repeat itself, that we will be on point. It is what it is.
In this video, you will learn that economic indicators of a country affect the value of a currency, and they are released as reports. We will discuss the following economic indicators: interest rates and inflation. Economic indicators measure how strong an economy is. It is important to understand how strong an economy is, because the strength of an economy has an impact on the value of the currency. These indicators are released as reports, and the publishing times are released ahead of the actual publication. Interest rates are one of the most important drivers of the currency markets. They are normally set by a country's central bank. For the United States, interest rates are set by the Federal Reserve Bank, and for the Eurozone, the European Central Bank is responsible for setting the interest rate.
We talked about this because we talked about how the EU is connected to United States. Okay, how UK is connected to the United States, and then we have to go through the EU to be represented under them to a certain extent. Okay, so with they issue trying to be connected from the European Union, Okay, this is causing a little issue with United States because United States wants to be in all the markets and they won't be able to be in or have a strong hold in the European markets without the UK. So remember we went over that. Okay, so just come on. I know you remember.
The central banks use the interest rates to promote economic growth or to curb inflation. Let's take a look at the mechanisms behind this. The central bank of a country lends money to commercial banks, and the interest rates set by the central bank are what the commercial banks have to pay for borrowing the money. This is referred to as the base interest rate. These commercial banks also lend money to people that want to buy things, such as a house. The minimum interest they have to pay is the minimum based on the interest the central bank has set. So, if the central bank changes the interest rate a commercial bank charges also changes. Now let's have a closer look at how the interest rates specifically affect a country's currency. When the central bank increases the interest rates, the cost of borrowing goes up. This means that homeowners now have to pay more on their mortgages and, as an effect, have less money to spend on commercial goods. Therefore, the demand for these goods, like cars, will go down. Manufacturers are now faced with a lower demand for their goods and are not able to raise the price that much. Therefore, raising interest rates will curb the economy by decreasing the demand for goods and services and will reduce inflation. However, when the economy is not doing so well, the central bank might want to decrease the interest rates to stimulate the economy. Now, when the interest rates are lower, a homeowner spends less on his mortgage and therefore has more money to buy other goods and services like cars. These goods need to be produced, so by lowering interest rates, production will rise and thereby stimulate economic growth. Of course, it is not just
Okay, so just pay attention to that module, like how, okay, look at that. Let's look at it together. Let's look at it together, guys. Here we go. Let's see. All right. So when they decrease, because that's where we're at right now, where they're decreasing the interest rates, okay? Why? Because as he stated, the economy is not looking good. So supposedly that we're supposed to be saving money as the consumer so we can put money back into the economy to stimulate the economic growth and the products and goods, buy more. But in the midst of all this happening, we having some issues with people who we buying products from. And we're having trade issues. So this is another impact on the economy of what's going on right now. Okay, so I just wanted to stop and pay attention because this is something that needs to be connected to another concept. Not only are they decreasing the interest rate, and this is supposed to stimulate the economy through us buying more products and goods. But if we're being taxed more on products and goods, or it's some type of trade war that's causing products and goods not to come in here, or it actually to cause businesses from here to go outside of our country or the country to, save a buck or so. This is how this kind of clash. So just pay attention. Just pay attention.
economic growth. Of course, it is not just mortgages that are affected by interest rates. Factories and other areas of industry borrow money to invest in growth. When interest rates are low, the cost of borrowing is low. Business owners will be more inclined to grow their business and will therefore borrow money. This money is invested in the economy, spurting further growth. On the other hand, when interest rates rise, business owners will not continue to invest as much because it is more expensive for them to do so. The economy will slow down as a result of less money invested. A higher interest rate means that you gain higher rates of return for the money you hold in your savings account. This is also why higher interest rates benefit those who have savings. If one country has a higher interest rate than another country, money will flow into the country with the higher interest rate because investors will get more interest on their money. Because the country with the low interest rate currency has to be exchanged for the country with the higher interest rate currency, this increases the demand for the higher interest rate currency, and the currency appreciates in value. Inflation measures the rate at which prices of goods and services rise in a given period. If inflation is too high, prices increase significantly and therefore reduce the purchasing power of money. In other words, the disposable income that consumers have is reduced. This can have a negative effect on the economy, and hence the currency. However, if a country experiences low inflation, prices become stagnant or rise too slowly. Investors could see this as an indication that the economy is not as strong. Therefore, this could also have a negative effect on the value of a currency. To protect consumers from excessive inflation, central banks will tend to raise interest rates. This is because it reduces the spending power that consumers have, and so there is reduced demand for goods and services. Under reduced demand, the price for goods and services are kept to an optimal rate. When inflationary data is higher than expected, traders may buy the currency of a country in anticipation of an interest rate hike from the central bank. However, it depends on the economic conditions because excessive inflation could erode the value of any capital within that economy, which means that the value of the currency could decline. The terms hawkish and dovish refer to how a central bank will manage the balance between inflation and growth. If a central bank is concerned about inflation, it is considered hawkish and is more likely to adopt a higher interest rate. If a central bank is concerned about growth, it is considered dovish and is more likely to adopt a lower interest rate. So far, you have learned that economic reports measure how strong an economy is. Economic reports published throughout the year and the publishing time are released ahead of time. Interest rates are one of the most important drivers of a currency. They can be used as a tool by a central bank to either reduce inflation or stimulate the economy. Inflation measures how quickly the price of goods and services rise. Central banks will try to target an acceptable rate of inflation. Hawkish and dovish refer to how the central bank will manage inflation and growth. Traders use these reports to determine the effect that it has on the value of a currency.
All right. So basically, the most important thing from here that we definitely need to take from here is that we need to pay attention to the economic report of the United States of America and globally. So we're going to find some economic reports for us to review in the next week or so we can get some true,
Where is the best place to get leads?
Facts. You know, I like to deal with facts, and we're going to deal with facts, and we're going to deal with facts. We're going to figure out what's going on, and we're going to find some of these reports, and I'm going to find comprehensive videos for you or some actual PDF maybe that I can download for you. Okay? So we're going to move on to the next video, and let me see. I think it was one more concept that I wanted to highlight from that video. No, I think that was it. For the most part, we already know that the feds already control our interest rate and how it trickles down from the Fed, the Federal Reserve, to the commercial banks, to us. And you see they lower the interest rate when basically they need to stimulate the economy. And then they increase the interest rate when they want to slow down the inflation, when people get real greedy, because this is supposed to be like a capitalistic country. So they like, oh, we're making money, so we're going to up the prices. And then they up the prices and the money don't mean nothing because it's paper. So then they come in and they be like, hey, we're going to increase the interest, and then the businesses slow down and stop acting like fools. So I'm just breaking it down in lame terms for you people, you know where we from, that needs to hear it and what the hell is going on, and not just, talking in that nonsense, the big talk. I'm not going to call it nonsense, but this is for the average person as well. So I'm going to play y'all interpreter to a certain extent. That's what I do. Okay? But I know y'all able to pay attention to details yourself. So the next video we're going to go into is we're going to talk about China, because people stay talking about China. China plays a big role. We talked about 2018 and all the damn bonds that they bought. And I also ran into another video, and I wish I would have brought it up because I don't want to look for it now, that Russia actually dumped all the American bonds, like just threw them in the trash. That was a couple of days ago too. So if I happen to find that, I'll be uploading that next week, because next week I'm going to be going live earlier in the week as well as I told you, I'm going to be going live talking about prime-time home buyers, another asset that's important to have, some type of property that you could kind of liquidate real fast and probably get some type of currency. It is what it is, at the end of the day, or just keep it, if that's feel like that's where you want to be. You have a lot of options. So we're going to watch this short clip of China's crisis and the coming global recession. Okay? People talking about it. I'm not the only one talking about this. Okay? Now it's starting to be people talk about it, but y'all on point because we've been talking about it for about a good, almost a year now. I've been going, I'm not going to say a year, about 6-7 months being consistent with the Secure Your Energy. So congratulations to the people who are paying attention and watching all the uploads that I'm putting on Secure Your Energy. Go viral because we need people to pay attention. We need people to be woke so we can make some good decisions together because one person can't do it. You can't do it if everybody else sleep, just dancing in the club or just not, getting effed up and, just getting caught up in gossip and politics and drama and religion and not really paying attention what the hell you gonna put in your mouth because the way this system is set up. Period. It is what it is. You have to go back into your immediate survival. And I feel like something going on. So I'm back in my immediate survival like shit. What we going to eat a year from now? Because something's about to go down. And how we going to live? Because I'm used to having all these pretty, beautiful lights and washing machines and dryer. Do I got to go be living like I'm back in Haiti? I could do it. Can people do it? I'm not saying it's going to get that bad. But you never know. Are you ready? I don't think so. But I ain't gonna hate because I know some people ready. Y'all ready to be washing out them buckets? You never know. You never know because we live very comfortably in the United States. And I'm going to be honest. I'm going to just go off on my little tangent right now because I'm able to experience two different worlds as well. A few different worlds. And definitely being able to travel back and forth to Haiti and be able to see what goes on there and how the people actually strive to live off of the land to a certain extent. How, you have to have a generator. As I mentioned to people in my personal page that my grandmother got solar panels out there in Haiti, which has definitely saved her, allow her to, be more freer. So it's a different way of living and people never know. So other countries, not only, I'm not just going to talk about Haiti, but other countries who have been war-stricken lives in different conditions versus what we live in America. So we can keep on acting like it ain't going to never hit, but a bully gets hit. A bully can't go bullying somebody don't think they're going to get punched in the face. That's all I'm saying. I'm just saying. And if you don't think that the actions of what the country that we live in has been bullyish and that is no type of karma, then you have to be living in some type of psychosis, some type of fantasy world, some type of denial, some type of not me, or just bumping, I'm not going to pay attention. I'll just die with the rest of them. Okay? And I'm going to just jump off of my soapbox and we're going to watch the video. We'll watch the video.
So let's go back to that chart, because that's a shocking chart to me. It's assuming that there's enormous amounts of capital flight going on.
Yes.
And it's not showing up in the currency market.
The one that shows illicit capital flows.
That's right.
Yeah. So,
and the diamonds obviously corroborates it.
Yes. And then we'll show you also, one of the things that when you think about how China operates, when you understand that they've now gone to current account negativity for the first time in the first half of 2018, what is important to China going forward? It's capital flows. And so when we put together this chart from SAFE and CEIC's database, when you look at the green bars there, the green bars are the current account building that reserve balance that enables China to just keep printing money on the other side of their balance sheet, running their domestic economy they want to do. That turned negative in the first half of 2018. So you see the green bars went negative. The blue bars here are, quote, net arrows and emissions, which is Chinese for illicit capital flows. So the only thing holding China up right now...
This hasn't changed trend. We still think that this is negative now, going into 2019?
Well, so I'll say that when you think about what happened in December, crude oil dropped from $75 a barrel to $43 a barrel?
Yeah.
That's one of China's biggest imports.
Yeah.
Is crude oil.
That's a big drop. That's almost a half a hit. Pay attention, y'all. Pay attention.
So that'll give them a brief reprieve on the current account side of things.
Yeah.
But again, the question with that is that a secular or is that a cyclical phenomenon?
That's right.
This is key to understand. You see the dotted line?
Yeah.
That's volume of crude importation by China using the right y-axis. And this is the dollar value of imports. So back in the end of 2014, early 2015, when crude collapsed from 100 to 30,
Yeah.
they got a massive reprieve in their current account.
Yeah.
But if you look at the volume, does that line look like y equals mx plus b? It doesn't look very cyclical.
No.
Right?
No, it's not.
Think about this. They were importing just under 300 million tons at the beginning of 2015. The most recent number is 462 million tons. Think about this. They're now importing 50% more crude in only 4 years ago.
I do wish we could see the chart because I know my SecureYourEnergy gurus know how to read a chart now and know the difference. Even just taking a glance like, wait, that looked like it's a problem. So we went over yield charts and, the bonds and how it connects to the bond market. And we're going to go more down into yield charts as well in the bond market. But I wish we was able to see what the hell he talking about over there because we're going to understand what's going on, because we over here paying attention.
50% more today than they were importing 4 years ago.
That's staggering.
Right? So is this a secular or a cyclical phenomenon? It is clearly secular when you look at this line.
Yeah.
And now energy prices will stabilize. So you say, well, are they going to have a positive current?
How you like, whoa, how you look at the chart a little bit like, whoa, that look bad. That looks so unstable. Any chart that you say look like this, if it ain't no straight line or going up is a problem. I know the simpler view of charts. If the slope ain't going up, you ain't going up. If it ain't staying like this, it ain't even. You ain't staying at a stable level. So just FYI, look at that chart. That look a little crazy.
Counter negative this quarter, and the fourth quarter is probably positive because oil collapsed. But in the long run, smoothed, they have a secular problem where they'll from now on will have a negative current account.
Right.
They're starting to look more and more like Argentina and Turkey and the other twin deficit countries. Because what are they doing? They're running a negative current account. They're running a negative fiscal balance of roughly 9% of GDP. Mm-hmm. So they're running twin deficits. Their FX reserves are dwindling. And they're starting to borrow a lot of dollars.
So how much of the FX reserves is liquid out of what's left?
So, you look at
What's the composition of that now?
Well, first of all, if you remember, when they were let into the IMF SDR basket, they said they would disclose the composition of their reserves within 2 years. Well, that was a long time ago.
So we talked about the IMF, and as he said that really quick, they entered the IMF reserve basket. So they went to the IMF and got some money. Okay, they probably took that money and invested in the American market and bought the damn bonds. I'm just that right there was just my opinion, but that's what he's talking about. So they actually went to the IMF and got some money. China is kind of bugged up. Excuse my language. Something's going on with them too. That's why people in Japan. I know that's a different place, but China is a little bit. It's about to turn up. It's about to turn up out there too. There has been mass protests that we'll go over next week. I mentioned that last week. That's going on around the world. The only people that's really not mass protesting is us in America because we're a little docile and a little distracted. That's all I'm saying. I'm not going to lie. Anyway, moving on.
And we haven't seen it. So again, look at what they say or look at what they do, not what they say in China. And clearly, they lied to everyone with that statement.
Yeah.
But more importantly, I think getting back to your question, what does that composition of reserves look like? One thing we know for a fact is U.S. Treasury tick data shows that they own a little bit less than 1.2 trillion in treasuries.
Yeah.
So we think that their only liquidity that they have any size of is our treasuries. So they own a little bit of, call it yen.
Okay, so let's listen to what the hell he just said. You're going to have to watch this video again and watch it by yourself. He said the only liquidities that China may have is the ones they have in the United States. The only thing that they can liquidate is the bonds and the things that they have in the United States. Do you understand that? And those bonds are connected to what? To not only investment accounts, but home mortgages as well that we talked about. Fires in California. Maybe it's conspiracy. Pay attention. Did you hear what he just said? Y'all gonna watch this video by yourself and y'all gonna pay attention. My secure team, I know y'all on point. That's ridiculous. That is what people has been saying and making, like conspiracy videos on, is that China owns a lot of America land. But for him to actually, we got, because I don't got the paperwork in front of me, but I really believe that he's a credible source. Okay, because I try to share as much credible sources with you as possible, that this is the truth. And that just supports some of the things that has been said in the last couple of years. So the only liquidity that China has is connected to United States. And how is that? Possibly through the bond market. Through all of the ones that they bought 2008 to help supposedly get us back on track. And that wasn't their goal. They just did it because it was an opportunity. And then you hear that they got money from the IMF. Right. That's why globally it's a damn issue. It's an issue. We're going to get through like 2 more minutes of this video, but I definitely wanted to highlight. Pay attention to details.
And euros, pounds, but they mostly own treasuries. We think the number's closer to $2 trillion instead of $3.2 trillion.
Yeah.
Which is dangerously below adequate levels.
Yeah, because it sounds like a huge sum, but for the size of the economy and the potential capital flows, that can go super quick.
So if we're going to play large numbers here,
yeah,
the broad measure of credit in the Chinese financial system is $48 trillion worth of RMB. They only have $2 trillion of reserves. Think about these numbers, right?
Oh, I had a heart attack. I'll be so stressed out if I had $42,000 in debt and I'm saying 42,000, but he said trillion, and only 2 trillion, and actually like some type of liquidation of your own. What? And then, so the monies that you have out in investment, you damn right I'm gonna be asking for something back. I'm like, yo, I bought some bonds from you and I need to liquidate that real quick. Who the hell they bought bonds from? Who bonds did they buy? Definitely United States bonds. This is the things that you need to know. These are the things that we need to know. I don't think you knew that. This is how we make the connections. Yeah, that doesn't sound good.
In their last banking crisis, which was between 98 and 2002, the loss given defaults were 80% of loans that defaulted. Mm-hmm. And at one point in time, they had 35% of their entire system was non-paying.
But so the counter argument always is from everybody is, it doesn't matter.
But it's China.
That's always the thing. It's China. They'll smooth it. Carl's being alarmist. Everybody's being alarmist. You're wrong, Raoul. It's not going to trade through 7 against the RMB. All of this, right?
And those people sleep well at night until they don't. And
that's the nickels in front of a steamroller approach.
I think what brings this to a head is the current account. When the current account goes negative and the reserve balance is going the other way, that the rubber meets the road then. As long as that balance is increasing annually along with GDP and RMB terms, they can keep going. But as soon as those balances go, now their fiscal balance is -10, -9.5, their current account balance goes negative and it's a secular negativity, then they have more money leaving than coming in. They have to desperately borrow. And they actually change. Now they're changing their laws. They say, oh, you know what? Now Westerners can own more than half of our banks, not a problem.
That's right. Yeah.
Right?
Obviously.
Please invest more in Chinese
equities. They get rid of all the
equities.
shit they can.
Right?
Exactly. As he just said, help get all the shit that you can't get. Now y'all can invest. We changing policies because we ain't going to collapse by our damn self. That's what he said. So I'm going to let y'all watch this video, the other 5 minutes by yourself. And this is on Real Vision YouTube page. Great information. Very diverse. So check it out. Real Vision Finance. Subscribe. I'm not subscribed on this page, but I'm subscribed now. All right, so we're going to move on to our next few videos. There's only a few more, guys.
Fiat currency has no intrinsic value.
We got this. So paper money, the scam of all time. Global currency reset looming. Crash is trash. 4,000K. So this is a video that just released, and basically I wanted to go over this because people, when I talk about this, some people literally know about it, and I was like, I mentioned before, I had one young lady that said, oh, well, it's not gonna be a crash, this is gonna be a change of currency, and like the process of even a change of currency is easy for people. That's not too easy. You know how people lose the actual what they have in the midst of that. Like when they took the gold standard away, people lost a lot of money with the paper garbage that they got. So going back, I hope you went back and did some research on that. So let's watch this one, and then we're gonna go into the gold reserves and kind of finish off the night a little bit. Give me another 15 minutes of your life, 20. You know how we go in, especially when I've been off for the last 2 weeks, because I give people their holiday, respect to people who celebrate the holidays as well, but respect to the people who celebrate the Sabbath, and know that we have every Saturday to spend that beautiful time with our family. So anyway, moving on. Let's watch this video together.
Means the piece of paper or coin itself has no value. This approach to money varies from other forms of money whose value is derived from some physical good. It is usually gold or silver, and this is called commodity money. Banks make the majority of their profits on interest rate spreads called net interest revenue. Globally, governments have created negative interest rate bonds, and banks can essentially borrow money at negative rates. Then, the banks go out and loan to consumers and other businesses at a higher positive rate. Why would you save it and work for it if they can print it faster than you could work for it? Why you keep saving when they are printing it? The rich do not work for money. The Federal Reserve can always print more money. However, they cannot build houses or create companies to invest in. You need to exchange your cash for real assets. Cash is trash. Printing paper money and buying gold with it. It will go down in history as the scam of all scams, an unprecedented wealth transfer. Welcome to the Atlantis Report. Fiat money depends entirely on the belief that it has value. The Indians who sold Manhattan Island for wampum, beads and seashells thought the same about their money. The intrinsic value of all fiat currencies is the same, zero. Because all that money is created by issuing an equal amount of debt, meaning that exponentially growing chart represents debt as well as money. It is literally a zero-sum game. This is all public knowledge. That and the money is being concentrated into the money power monopolist mega corporate empire, while the debts are being consolidated into the debt money serf classes. When Nixon took us off the gold standard in 1971, gold was official $35 an ounce. At the approximate price of gold at $1,458, this would mean a compounded rate of 8.14% for 48 years. Based on $1,458, the dollar has lost 97.7% of its value against gold. If gold went to $2,000, the compounded rate would be almost 8.8% and a loss of 98.25% for the dollar. I think that is a pretty good showing for gold. That is a pretty good indication of the rate of inflation, the loss of value of the dollar over time relative to the amount of gold. These are not organic events but carefully crafted policy decisions by the money changers in the temple. When all hell breaks loose, bread and water will inevitably outpace the delusional value of money. Money is based on debt. The only way to shore up debt is to eliminate the money it was used to create. If all the bank loans were paid, no one could have a bank deposit, and there would not be a dollar of coin or currency in circulation. This is a staggering thought. We are entirely dependent on the commercial banks. Someone has to borrow every dollar we have inflow, cash, or credit. If the banks create ample synthetic money, we are prosperous; if not, we starve. We are absolute without a permanent money system. When one gets a complete grasp of the picture, the tragic absurdity of our hopeless position is almost incredible, but there it is. It is the most important subject intelligent persons can investigate and reflect upon. It is so important that our present civilization may collapse unless it becomes widely understood and the defects remedied very soon. The monetary system will fail because the debt-based system relies on continually expanding debt. But the more the debt grows, the lower the value of the currency unit. Eventually, the limit is reached. As debt goes exponential, the currency value goes to zero. No currency system ever survives. They all die the same way. It's no secret our economy is artificially synthetic in a complicated, bizarre way, and as such, requires a frequent stimulus to keep things afloat.
Okay, I just want to stop here because I like this video because not only is he actually going into the physical realms of how money is not nothing, is our perspective, but he's going into the metaphysical. And I just want to stray off to Terrence Howard. I forgot what he played in. I think he played on, like, you know, those big shows that y'all like to watch, like Power or something like that. And this guy, this actor, he's not an actor. He is a metaphysics, can I say researcher? And he has been researching quantum physics. And he came out on mainstream and said something to the general public when he was on the red carpet about how he basically kind of going to leave acting because he has opened the flower of life and talked about quantum physics. And people were like, what the is he talking about? They were laughing at him because, you know, people don't understand. So that's how the ignorant, dumb mainstream people handle stuff, by laughing. But because I dip and dab into metaphysics, I could understand what he was saying. So one of the concepts that he was talking about that I'm going to break down in the Black Discovery channel, and not a lot of people are going to understand it, but I may put in Uncensored Enlightenment Talk because it's going into metaphysics. I know that's about 10 years ahead of what people even thinking about now, but this is also something that I have dipped and dabbed into metaphysics. And one of the things he talked about when he talks about math, he says that basically the timetable, the times multiplication is stupid. Multiplication is made up and it's not within the balance of a harmony of life when it comes to quantum physics and line structure. This is something I'm not going to go deep into details with, but to break down what he was saying is that, for example, 1 times 1 would equal 1 is not a balanced equation because it's substance times substance, and you're only getting one substance out of it, which is stupid. As just with the example of 0 times 1, where you have no substance times a substance, and you're going to say no substance happened. That's like having a basket full of grain times no basket, and then it equals to no basket full of grain. That doesn't even make common sense. And this was the foundation of what he was saying is the issue with our banking system, and how the banking system, along with corruption, he went into the banking system, okay? Along with corruption, is causing us to be into not only the conscious realm that we're in as human beings and not being able to evolve, but it's imbalancing us when it comes to sound waves and meditation. So we're not going to go into that. But the people who kind of go over into that realm, y'all know what I'm talking about. Yes, I am 365 degrees. Yes, I know how to talk about a lot of different topics. I have been researching since the age of 11 years old of various topics. So with these forums, you're going to hear a lot of things that come out of me that you're going to be like, whoa, what the hell? But yeah, we're going to go into that, into the Black Discovery channel, into a little bit of quantum physics and metaphysics connected to the physical realm and sound vibrations and things like that. So this video is amazing because people cannot even connect money and the actual vibration of money to your actual physical energy that you're working so hard for to get this thing that is actually worth nothing. So you're actually sucking the life force out of you. Okay, so let's just watch this video. I'm sorry I went a little deep. But that's what we got to do. We're going to have to step it up a little bit, people. We're going to have to step it up.
Fortunately, the economy becomes immune and requires a forever supply of new creative solutions to prevent collapse. Imagine that. So in keeping things afloat, we better never run out of creative ideas. Maybe the Fed has a website to submit creative ideas because this will be an all-hands effort. Going off the gold standard means that we can buy all we want from foreign countries and run up trade deficits until the cows come home. The problem is, we either have to print money to make up for the wealth in dollars that left the country, or we have to hope those foreign countries will recycle them back into the US through treasuries. It seems we have to count on both of those now as we monetize the debt and count on foreigners to fund our lifestyles through treasuries at some point. Game over.
Okay, so you see how he talks about the treasuries and the bonds and how we need people to actually buy them to keep our currency afloat. So when people are dumping them and about to call them in for liquidation, that's when you say game over.
Time will come when the US dollar will collapse and be worth no more than the scrap and or collection value of its cotton, paper and dross coins. We are coming to a period I call the global currency reset. As talks about an economic collapse are heating up among economic experts, some believe that it might even trigger a global currency reset. Basically, the global currency reset refers to a process where the US dollar will eventually lose its place as the global currency. Instead, gold or some other instrument will be used as the new standard. In 1944, the Allied countries came together to establish a new global monetary system. Called the Bretton Woods Agreement, they decided to ditch the gold standard and use the US dollar as the global currency. The US benefited greatly from this new currency system, and the dollar made its way into central banks around the world. In time, we left the fixed rate system. Richard Nixon stopped backing US dollars with gold globally in 1971. This was known as the Nixon shock. Since then, the dollar and all other currencies in the world exist without any support from a hard asset like gold. After the 2008 financial crisis, experts started predicting that the current financial system was on its last legs. Since the Federal Reserve was created in 1913, the dollar has lost 95% of its value, its worth eroded by inflation. The US debt currently sits at over $22 trillion and grows daily. In 2011, Standard & Poor, a rating agency, downgraded US sovereign debt from AAA to a lowly A. The 2009 to 2008 financial crisis and stock market crash, which started in the US through the subprime mortgage debacle. That was another flag to the rest of the world, signaling a move away from the dollar toward other currencies. The American people actually showed resistance against central banks for a long time. Before the FED was established, 3 central banks were shut down by the Americans. In 2019, global debt hit $250 trillion. Encouraged by lower interest rates, governments went on a borrowing binge as they ramped up spending, adding $3 trillion to world debt in Q1 alone. It reverses a trend that started at the beginning of 2018, of reducing debt burdens, when global debt...
I just wanted to show how they showed that guy at the liquor store getting a drink. Like, yeah, the Americans is getting liquor, being distracted, looking at the things they ain't supposed to. I'm just saying, why are you showing that? Why? That's just subliminal messages, let y'all know y'all better wake up.
On record, $250 trillion. The IMF, the World Bank, one after another, are warning of a recession. Last week, a central bank said gold could serve as a trust anchor for a renewed international monetary system in the event of a global reset. In an article on its website, the De Nederlandsche Bank boldly claims, if things go wrong, prices may fall. But financial crisis or not, a gold bar always holds value. We're not sure when the global currency reset will happen, or what will be the trigger, i.e., a corporate debt time bomb that could crash the global economy. Almost $19 trillion of debt is owed by companies that don't earn enough to cover interest payments. We are absolutely sure the global currency reset will happen, and gold will play a crucial role in the transition to a new world currency. Do you know about NESARA? NESARA is the National Economic Security and Reformation Act. It was to be announced on the morning of September 11, 2001. NESARA provides significant financial benefits to American citizens, including, number 1, end of income taxes. Number 2, forgiveness of credit card and mortgage debt as a remedy for bank frauds. Number 3, U.S. Treasury bank system, which absorbs the Federal Reserve and new precious metals-backed U.S. Treasury currency. Number 4, restoration of constitutional law, and much more. The day is approaching with an inevitable economic collapse and stock market crash. When the currency is created as debt, which it is, it requires an ever-expanding currency supply forever. Say they print $1 million, and that's the only money there is. At 2% interest, that $1 million requires $1,020,000 to be paid back. Where's the extra $20 grand come from? It doesn't exist, so it has to be printed too. And you can't actually pay off the million, because then there'd be no money in circulation. So you have to reprint the million plus 20 grand. Now, if you want the economy to grow, that $1 million has to grow too. Otherwise, you'd have 0% GDP growth. So 1 million becomes 2 million. Well, now you owe 40 grand in interest. This has been the way the siren works for over a century now. External debts and our currency and our economy are all linked. Now for the real kick in the nuts. If you want the economy to keep growing at the same rate, the debt must grow at an exponential rate. If society is used to the growth rate from 1 million to 2 million, you can't just go to 3 million next time. From 1 to 2, it was 100%. From 2 to 3 would only be 50%. So you have to grow it from 2 to 4 million. Of course, then you owe 80 grand in interest. And the next printing has to go from 4 million to 8 million. And on it goes. Any attempted slowdown in the growth leads to economic contraction. That's what the QT over the last year did. So now we see the economy slow. So they have to print more. And even if they save the economy again, next time they will just have to print even more. This is the real crux of it all. The debt is literally required to grow not at a linear rate but at an exponential one. The average human mind has trouble comprehending exponential growth, but we've reached the point where either we have the economy slow or our debt goes full on hockey stick at this point in the graph. Or, we get a new monetary system and currency and start over. Those are literally the only choices. Professor Lawrence Kotlikoff in 2012 estimated the US government's future commitments of the net present value of over $222 billion. Kotlikoff said 222 trillion, not billion. No one can know what the exact figure is for future government liabilities, of which welfare is an increasing component. No one is allowed to know the real state of government spending thanks to the Federal Accounting Standards Advisory Board Rule 56, promulgated this year. Add that reality to the $21 trillion of unsubstantiated adjustments, i.e., missing, presumed stolen, from 20 years of using the Pentagon credit. The federal government will probably collapse, zeroing out all the liabilities, but meanwhile...
Alright, I just gonna have to stop this video. I know y'all saw my expression where I was like, oh my god, because there was a piece of information in this video that I did not know it was gonna just talk about, but it ran through it very pretty fast, and this is something that people will not really hone in on, but the people who pay attention to my lives, I promise you, please research this. About 5 years ago, I came across information pertaining to a program that was put into law that took place and came out to national public in 2011, but was supposedly distracted by the World Trade Center and the hit in 9/11. All the conspiracy behind 9/11 is supposedly it's an inside hit, but what this goes to say that this was supposed to be information that was hidden, that was supposed to be let out to the people on that same day that the 9/11 incident happened, which delayed this information called NESARA. NESARA. I need you guys to start to look into this. There's not a lot of information on the internet or the general public about it, but the more we research about it, the way Google work and my research about Google and paying attention to what they said in the congressional meetings is the more that we hit certain topics is the more information comes about it, and it comes up in our algorithm and it pulls up. If we don't hit it and we don't put it in, it doesn't pull up into the mainstream. So NESARA is a program that was connected to the biggest lawsuit that happened that people did not know about, called the farmers lawsuit, the farmers case. So the farmers case, I have videos that's located on the Black Discovery channel, as well as SecureYourEnergy on YouTube, that talks about in depth. It's a re-upload of the whole documentary. You also can find this re-upload on High Frequency channel, where he uploaded the whole 3-hour documentary. What I did was break down the documentary in sections so you can understand. But the Farming Act in itself was a big lawsuit that came to disclose that the banks were doing things crooked. One of the main things they were doing they were doing predatory loans against individuals where if the person passed away, that the home was back in the possession of the bank. And even if you left it to your family or another individual, that individual lost the property. And this was something that was going on, and it was not on mainstream. And just because we didn't have the access to internet and Facebook like we did back in the day, this information wasn't readily available. But because I'm grateful to have the vibration of information that comes to me, this is something I was privileged about 7 years ago. This video right here totally shocked me because I did not think that they were going to talk about the Nasara, and it's actually being related to the currency reset and the doing away of taxes, income taxes, because it is not just as well as not lawful when you do the research. But we voluntarily pay taxes as United States citizens, and we do that through way of adhesion contracts and more. I'm getting off the topic just a little bit, but I know the people who understand what I'm saying, they understand what I'm saying, especially the people that's in the high frequency group. Y'all know what the hell I'm talking about. So, Nasara, please research Nasara a little bit more. Keep your eyes on the prize and keep your eyes on this global currency reset that may and will occur. And as you say, gold is a buffer into whatever currency that people decide to believe in next, because we are the only beings on this planet that choose to use a medium to exchange for our immediate needs, which is stupid. But whatever. I'm just gonna just shut up on that note because it makes no damn sense. We the only living species that have to pay. They're about to make us pay for air. Okay, so I'm next time I'm coming back as a bird. I'm trying to live free. I ain't trying to pay none of these. I ain't coming back as a human when I come back. So let me not get off topic, but this is real. So please research Nasara. I'm going to go into Nasara a little bit more in the upcoming weeks. If you can, go to the Black Discovery channel and look up these videos. That's the farmer's case. The farmer's case that is will go right into the Nasara program, in which we are supposed to be the beneficiaries of this big trust and money that's supposed to be basically leveling out everybody's debt and the fake hyperinflation and all of this stuff, because it's all fake. It's all fake. It's all fake. It's all make believe. There's numbers in the system. You don't believe it. Oh, well, you can keep playing. But once you set this in your consciousness, we're going to be able to vibrate at a higher level. The shit is fake. The money is fake. What we need to do is really get ourselves good with God, learn how to cultivate the land a little bit better, as well as get out of this capitalistic mindset, and we can start to head towards the direction of prosperity, as well as get this information about Nasara. Nasara is a real law, Nesara. It's a real law, but it has been hidden from the people, and it takes us that's going to have to bring this information out. I didn't know he was going to talk about it, but since he talked about it, I might as well just let y'all know what the hell going on. All right, so we coming to an end. I know I've been rocking with you guys for a while. Gold reserve, which countries have the most gold reserve? It's like a short 48-second video, okay? We're going to watch that. This is from 2013. And then we're going to watch a 4-minute video, and you're going to see the trends and the difference of who got the gold.
My single best chart is based on the work of Dennis Gartman, economist and editor of the Gartman Letter. And Cyprus's gold reserves are relatively tiny, but Gartman says if the ECB is pressuring Cyprus to sell gold, that opens the door to other countries like Portugal or Greece, and perhaps even Italy selling gold. Italy has the world's third largest gold pile, about 2,400 metric tons, after the U.S. and Germany. And based on the plunge over the last 2 days, the U.S. lost about $50 billion plus on its gold holding. We have a second chart for you that shows the percentage of the country's total reserves held in gold. The U.S., Germany, and Italy have about 3/4 of their total reserves in gold. Look at China. Yeah. Minuscule, less than 2%. This is, of course, the officially declared gold reserves. A lot of people say there's the undeclared gold reserves as well.
So that video was actually, don't play yet, because I know how it is. ended up playing on me. That video, I think, was in 2013. Let me just verify that it was in 2013. And you see who had the most gold reserves at that time. And we're going to go into
Now, recently, a lot of
the next video. I guess it actually went on to the next video. Why central banks are buying so much gold. So you know the central banks that we talked about, which is the Federal Reserve and the European Bank that they
My
have.
single best chart is based on the work of Dennis Gartman, economist and
That
editor.
one was in 2013. So that was cool. That was in 2013. And you saw who had the most gold. And now we're going to go into gold reserve comparison 2019. That's the one we're going to watch. Okay, so you get a visual of how much gold these countries got. Like, it's serious, the size of a cat. It's not a joke. Like, pay attention. Pay attention. That's funny. They use a great comparison. Look at Haiti. We moving somewhere. Some of these countries you never even heard about. I bet y'all. I haven't my damn self. So when I was looking at this video, I was like, ooh, okay. Look, Guyana even know to have some gold. Ecuador up in there. They are not. Cambodia, Colombia. Look, these the countries that's starting to have more gold. We're moving on up. They ain't playing. There we go. Mongolia. Check that out. Nigeria. Think people stupid in Africa. They ain't stupid. Morocco has a lot of gold. Ukraine. Now we starting to move up. Yeah. Slovakia. I'm sorry, I just had to say it like that. Peru. Malaysia got some gold. They got some gold reserve, and they're good on technology and creating technology. See how much gold Pakistan got? Don't think these countries broke. Don't think these countries broke. Okay? Let America tell you that these countries ain't got nothing. They got something. Look what Egypt got. Egypt. The enslavers of the Israelites. No disrespect. I'm sorry. South Korea. Here we go. Greece. We moving on to the big boys. Libya. Why Libya on the hit list? They got a lot of gold. Why Libya on the hit list? South Africa. You see South Africa in the building. In the building. South Africa is not playing. But who's running South Africa right now? They're trying to get their land back. Venezuela have gold reserve as well that they're trying to hold and not allow them to liquidate their gold reserve. Look at Philippines. They're doing pretty good. Turkey. These are actually countries in their gold reserve, and I love this video because it's actually showing you in a life form of how much gold these countries got. Look at UK. Check it out. Now we move to the big dogs. Haiti had a size of less than a cat. I'm sorry. I love my country. We are in a bad situation. Look, Netherlands. That's what I'm talking about. These are the big heavy hitters. Japan, heavy hitters. Come on. Let's see where United States at. Switzerland on the gold reserve. China, Russia, France. There we go. Everybody next to each other. Italy, Germany. There we go. Now the United States got a big gold reserve. But guess what? Our currency is not connected to that gold reserve. So who the hell got control over the gold? Because our money ain't connected to all that gold. There we go. There we go. So that was a good review of, just a physical look of how gold looks being stacked upon each other, and countries, and they're kind of like, I can't say that is like specific information and it's totally correct, but I do appreciate the module that individual put together. So the last video we're going to watch tonight, I know we're rocking out, we're going to watch tonight, is how to prepare for the next global recession. This is about a 3-minute video. We're going to close out. I'm so grateful for you guys being here tonight and actually learning and growing. If you didn't watch it tonight, you're going to watch it tomorrow. You're going to watch it tomorrow. You're going to learn, grow, because this is the shit we need to be paying attention to. Excuse my language. I got to be real. I go from intellectual to hood. We gonna have to learn this stuff, okay? So let's watch this 3-minute video on how we possibly get prepared. But as they stated, gold is a buffer to whatever money y'all want to believe in next.
As it's been a decade since the global recession of 2008 and 2009, and some interesting and worrying vulnerabilities are also popping up at the moment. In 2008 and 2009, the dominoes were really set up for quite a nasty financial and economic crisis. This time, the economic vulnerabilities aren't quite as large. They're large enough that we could see a slowdown in GDP growth, a slowdown in trade, and things of that nature. The real risk is that our lack of preparedness and the lack of room for global cooperation will turn what starts as kind of a minor downturn into something much larger and much more difficult to deal with sometime in the next year or two. The last big global downturn began in the United States with the collapse of the housing bubble and the financial sector there. Next time, the trouble is much more likely to start elsewhere, and perhaps in the emerging world. Emerging economies are a much larger share of global output than they used to be. They've also gone on something of a borrowing binge over the last 10 years, which means that they could be due for a reckoning. There are also reasons to be concerned about the euro area, and in particular Italy, which has an enormous public debt problem, and where markets have been feeling a bit jittery about their ability to pay that back, and that could relaunch the euro area debt crisis that we saw about a half-decade ago. The tools governments normally use to fight a recession won't be available in the same way that they normally are the next time around. Interest rates will be very low, and so we normally rely on central banks to do interest rate cutting to perk up spending, perk up growth, and they're not going to be able to do that. So pretty quickly, they're going to have to turn to less tested methods. Money printing to buy bonds, quantitative easing was something that was used last time. That's going to be used again, but that works in a much more uncertain way and is much more politically contentious than some of the tools that are ordinarily used. Within countries, the problem is that government is much more polarized. Across the world, you have many more populist parties, nationalist parties, and it's going to be very hard to reach the agreement that's necessary to launch big spending programs and things of that nature. Then you also have disagreements across countries, which means that it's much more likely you have contentious policies, tariffs that go up, currency wars, things of that nature, as countries struggle to deal with the next downturn. Ideally, governments would be taking some steps right now to get ready for the next recession. They should be changing their central bank policy targets. What we've learned is that a low inflation target doesn't give central banks enough room to fight recessions before interest rates fall to zero. They should also be getting their budgets ready, which means preparing to include measures that will increase spending automatically when the economy weakens in the future, so that they don't have to have fights in Parliament about whether or not to expand spending when the time comes. But then, most important of all, I think, governments need to coordinate their responses with each other. That makes it much more likely that we don't enter a scenario like we did in the 1930s, when tariff barriers went up, when there were currency wars and competitive devaluations, and when ultimately that led to some pretty significant and nasty geopolitical tension.
All right, so that was a quick breakdown of what to possibly expect, as well as how we may be in a hole if other things doesn't fall into plan and quantitative easing doesn't work. Whatever. Anyway, you know that never works. So I want to say thank you guys for taking the time for being with me tonight. I know I went in, we was together for like 2 hours, but the people who have the long attention span, I know you can get through this content because it's very important. We don't only have to just pay attention to the drama and the gossip. We have to pay attention to what's going to go on in our pockets. I know this information may be a year or two ahead of time, but I promise you it's going to be very important. So if you're interested in securing your energy in a medium of currency that will help support the transition of a possible global currency reset or collapse, you can visit my website at www.secureyourenergy.org. Here you go. You'll learn a little bit more. Some videos I got for you here. You can sign up here if you want to for free. You don't have to buy gold right away. You can learn about it. You can buy gold at small increments. Right now, you can buy 1 gram of gold for about $60 plus shipping and handling. And what that goes to say, the average person can save at least 1 to 2 grams a month in gold. Why not? You never know. You never know what's going to happen around here. So thank you again for spending time with me, Extra Light, Lashley, on Secure Your Energy Live. And I will see you Monday at the Primetime Home Buyers Live, where we'll go over some mortgage, what happened specifically in the mortgage crisis, as well as some great information into regards to tax liens. I wasn't even looking at myself, my braids hanging down and everything. But I'm still cute, whatever. We still here for it. Anyway, many blessings, and thank you so much for listening to the things that we really